despise President Bush. I did. First day he got put in, I was upset. I kept telling my family I had to move out of the country. I was joking, of course, but I really, when they voted him in the second time, I was absolutely appalled, and I can't even watch his speeches anymore because I want to throw things at the television. It's not the Republican Bush that started this. It started back, over 10 years ago with Clinton pushing his agenda for trying to be, get more housing and more loans available for blacks. And I forgot what the program was, but they put it in, and we're paying dearly now.
I don't know. I like the Americans. I just don't like George W. Bush. That's it.
I was all for going to defend ourselves after 9/11. But then you don't go beat up the next door neighbor because you're mad at the guy in this house. You know what I mean?
The war in Iraq really gave the French a bad image of the US. But I don't think the French associate the President George W. Bush with the whole of the US, so it's okay, I guess.
And then he lied about it, or they told him wrong, and he wasn't smart enough to figure it out. My wife and I had a very serious argument over going into Iraq. I said it was the biggest mistake. I said, Hussein's not a threat to us. He may be partying up to the Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, but he's not a threat at this point. We don't have to do anything. Why go in there? Why make a big deal out of it? The only thing I can think of is that he went in there because he wanted to get Hussein. Hussein threatened to tried to assassinate his father. I don't think he's a very smart man. And I think he's just trying to press his father, and I think he's an idiot. So I thought it was more personal that he went in, because there was no logical reason to go in there. All this yellow cake and these things they had Colin Powell doing, none of it made any sense.
I don't think he was well advised in his decisions, and his view of the world is so black and white, so narrow.
To go to Iraq was a big mistake, but it's even bigger probably to stay there.
And he said he did it because he really felt they had weapons of mass destruction. The minute I heard that, I said, that's going to come back to bite you, because you got to prove it.
But because we say it doesn't make it so. I wish it did. I wish I was a size 3, but I'm not. And people have to learn, just because somebody stands up there and tells you something doesn't make it so.
The Bush administration burned a whole lot of international political capital. I mean, after 9/11, countries were lining up to support the United States. But when Iraq happened, the only coalition of the willing that could be cobbled together by the administration was a coalition of the bought.
People hold very strong views on both sides of this debate. We have been now, in Iraq for 5 years or more, and in my experience, there was nothing to be gained in the 2.5 years that I was the Secretary of State for Defence. There was nothing to be gained by having that perennial debate about whether it was the right thing to do, and no doubt in due course, history will judge, and there may indeed be inquiries, both sides of the Atlantic.
I don't think there's been much support for America or for Britain recently. Well, I don't think there will be for a long time. I think it's led to a lot of anti-American, anti-British feeling in Europe and around the world.
It doesn't seem to me to be very much to come out that people don't already know. People have made their minds up. The question now is, we did invade the country. We removed Saddam Hussein. I, in 2.5 years of visiting regularly to Iraq, and I was in Iraq about 10 times for extended periods over that time, never met an Iraqi who wanted Saddam back, I have to say. And it didn't celebrate the fact that he was no longer there brutalising their country. But instead of concentrating on that, what we need to do is, having invaded the country, is live up to our responsibilities to the Iraqi people, and that is to give them the opportunity now to build on the democratic government they have, to build on the political cooperation that has emerged, to build on their ability to be able to build a strong and capable army and a police force.
And when the pundits said my campaign was finished, I said I'd rather lose an election than see my country lose a war.
I keep drawing parallels with Vietnam because that's what I'm more familiar with. I think that's going to be what's going to happen here, is a withdrawal with honor, and then people are going to look back and think, what was that all about?
But we were dragged into various conflicts throughout the last 8 years. because of the Bush administration. You know, there are significant issues tied to who becomes president.
America has not lost its Scottish friends, but the provocation since 9/11 by the present administration has done much to lose friends and uninfluenced people in so much of the world. With another war unsanctioned by the UN, as was Vietnam, although not Korea.
I think a lot of people in Britain are going to be very excited when Bush leaves office. I think they view him as a real force for evil.